Welcome back to the shop, everybody. Nathan Wilson, Driving Dreams Restorations here in Central Florida. So it's been a while. I've just been super busy and haven't really made a lot of videos on the cars. The last few builds were really over the top, just really awesome, crazy builds, kind of like this one's going to be. And so I was just so busy doing that, and I don't know, I just been slacking on the videos. So, and I keep saying, actually, since I started this one, that I was going to take more videos of the process, and then it's just every step of the way I start thinking, like, you know, I just finished painting this car, so I took some videos of the body work process and some videos of us you know, lining up the doors and trying to, you know, you have to get everything perfectly straight on these cars. And then you know, I don't post it because I'm like, you know, there's a million videos on paint and body work out there, so why bother, you know? But this is black, as you can see, which is pretty typical. Everybody wants a black Lincoln. And then this is the 460. It's the same thing. I was going to do a video on this and, you know, why we're going this route and everything, but, you know, it's a 460. It's a Ford 460. I don't need to show you guys, you know, building this motor and putting it together. We're putting all the pulleys on and all that stuff. It would be kind of fun to do a build, you know, like I see some of these shops that do like the whole process from start to finish, and they show all that, but I don't know. I mean, I don't see really where it's necessary. So purpose of this video is mainly to kind of address the question. The last few builds that I've done were in the $300,000 range, and then a couple before that were like in the $200,000 range. So they're kind of creeping up there as, you know, things improve, and I guess, I don't know, maybe my job improves, who knows, inflation, whatever you want to call it. But there's a lot of differences between a $50,000 Lincoln and a $300,000 Lincoln, and some of it's subtle, some of it not so much. So I guess the title of this video is probably going to be, you know, a $100,000 Lincoln versus a $300,000 Lincoln, because even a $100,000 Lincoln, I mean, I haven't built a Lincoln in a long time that was $100,000. The ones that you used to see in my videos when I wasn't such a slacker and I made more videos, those were usually cars that I was kind of flipping and doing light restorations on. They were like the money cars to keep the bills paid. So they weren't really the greatest, the ones that you usually saw in the videos. The ones that I'm building either for a customer or that I build and then sell, they just, you know, I had no reason to make those videos because I wasn't trying to sell the car. That was the only reason I made those videos in the first place. So I did some videos on the gray car. That was the most recent build. That one had the 427 FE. It was about 800 horsepower, super crazy, you know, air ride, all the works. And I did some videos at the end just where I was showing some of the stuff that I did on the car, so that you know, people saw that car kind of in the background of the video, like, oh, wait a minute, you know, how come you haven't talked about this? So I'm going to try to do a better job on this build and maybe document some more of the stuff along the way. So I'll get into the reasons, okay, of why, well, you know, what the difference is between the really high-end builds. So as you can see, here are just some of the parts laid out. We've already got the rear end. So, I mean, it's a $5,000 Curry rear end. It's about a $3,000 or $4,000 Willwood brake setup and rotors and all that stuff. We've got the full 4-link air ride kit with the airbags under there. Same in the front, all new control arms, all that stuff. So I've done some videos in the past. This is the BC Fab kit. I've used it several times. I've used a few different kits. Pretty good luck with this one. I just made a little quick video today about putting this on. I'll try to, hopefully I'll get that one up. Just some tips of making this work a little better than maybe just the instructions out of the box. So all these pieces were laid out the other day. I should have taken the video when all this stuff was out. I mean, this shop here, this whole floor was just totally covered with all these parts and everything. So we've already, and obviously we've got the engine in, transmissions in. So we've already, you know, we're kind of making some progress already. But even just to get to this point, it's it's very expensive and very time consuming. And so one difference that I would say, so you see this car was stripped down to absolutely nothing. No glass, no wires, nothing. Then it's sent out to the stripper, the dipper, where you know, they dip it in acid, they dip the whole car. Maybe I'll find some pictures of that process and show you guys. So you come back with a car that's completely stripped to bare metal. It's nothing. There's no dirt, no grime. You know, you see everything. You know exactly where any little rust spots are, anything that needs to be replaced. So then you immediately put the car in either epoxy. We do the body and epoxy primer, and then all the inside and everything. We shoot it with pt.1 first, and then we do any type of welding and modifications. If we had to do any patch panels or anything like that, that's all done. Then it's sprayed with Raptor liner or Line-X, whatever you want to use. Then seam seal, tons and tons of seam seal. I wish I would have gotten the video of all the cracks and all the seams and how everything was seamed up. Then the Dynamat. So not to mention obviously all the modifications, like we, you know, extended the firewall, welded up a bunch of the unnecessary holes that used to be there for other things, made new holes for stuff that we're going to be doing that's custom, redid the tunnel here for the bigger transmission, redid the tunnel here for air ride, you know, things like that. All of your metal work and everything is done. And then you go crazy with the Dynamat. So a lot of guys will look at this and say, holy shit, you really went, you know, overboard. That's a lot. Like, why do you need, you know, the Dynamat back in here, or why do you need it up there on that part? But why not, right? So is there a downside to it? No. So same with like inside the doors, you'll see is all Dynamated. And before, that was all sprayed with pt.1, then sprayed with the Raptor liner, and then Dynamated. So the car is really quiet. Like when you tap on these doors, there's no like hollow banging sounds or anything. The car is going to be nice and quiet and solid. And you know, everything was seam sealed. All these edges here, I'll take, maybe I can get one of these off. So all this stuff was seam sealed. So these are all closed. It'll have the peak molding there, but just like all those little details that normally people would skip, those are, you know, some of the things that, you know, make the difference. And then you can see the engine bay, that everything, all the little, you know, the battery tray was removed. We're going to have to relocate the battery up underneath, like I always do underneath the fender here, just to clean up the compartment a little bit. You got to make the little plates. You got to, you know, you do a lot of changing and modification and then clean it up. Some people like to make a smooth fender wall here, you know, if you're going for like I don't know, some people like that a little better. This build is for a friend of mine. He wants it to look a little more, you know, natural, a little more how it was originally, but it's still nice and clean. And I actually kind of prefer this as well. My last few builds, I just left this, you know, I didn't do any, sometimes it can look cheesy when you just have a flat, smooth, you know, wall there. It's made of sheet metal. Some people do them out of fiberglass. A lot of times that can kind of look cheesy. So this still kind of looks a little muscly. It looks kind of more natural, and I like the look of it. So, so just to get to this point, even before we started the paint and body work, you're deep into this. So guys, sometimes I get calls, you know, my phone never stops ringing. I get calls from guys that say, hey, I got a Lincoln. I already have the car. You know, I set aside $50,000. I want to get this thing restored. And you can do that. Like, you can freshen it up, and you can, you know, there's levels to everything. So I'm not saying that you can't restore a Lincoln for $50,000, but you can't restore a Lincoln to this level and to the level of the last few that we did with $50,000. I mean, we have $31,000 in chrome work. So just to give you guys an idea. So you see all these pieces, and you don't have to do this. So obviously, you know, you don't have to literally re-chrome, send these out, get them blasted, get them actually chromed and polished and everything. You don't have to do that. These are headlight rings, right? But if you're building a $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 car, you're doing a no budget build, or you know, you're a guy who just wants it to be as perfect as possible. You want it, you know, just as nice as you can get it, then yeah, you'll do that, right? So you see like the headlight buckets over here are powder coated. Do you need to powder coat your headlight buckets? Probably not. So, but if you know, some of these cars I see going for, you know, 300,000. You saw everybody saw Gold Dust went for 750. So a $750,000 restoration, your headlight buckets are going to be powder coated. These are the differences, you know. And this is super clean. It's not going to rust anymore, right? You know, I mean, these are the things that this car will outlive all of us. We'll all be dead and gone. And this car, if the guy don't crash it, will still be around. All of this stuff is protected now. It's all clean and polished and fresh, and that's kind of the goal. You're not just trying to make the car drivable again. It's pretty simple to make a daily driver, and I'm all for that. I have a daily driver. Like my car that I drive around, my Lincoln, is a 65 convertible, and it's nowhere near this nice. And a lot of you guys saw my 64 that I had for a long time with the big motor and all that, and I kind of moved on from that, and I kind of like having a daily driver, you know. And so this isn't for everybody, but some of these things, like I wanted to do this video while everything was still kind of apart, and you can kind of see things a little better, and you can see what's going into it, and maybe it'll give you a better idea of how the price can get so high so quick, and why, and who wants it. Like, I understand it's not for everybody, but I mean, just this grill, for instance, it was I think it was $3,500 to get it chromed, right? So it got, because they're pretty difficult with all these, you know, all these little holes and everything, so it's hard to get it chromed and have it come out nice, right? Then the crazy thing is, you take this freshly all chrome piece, then you send it to the powder coater, and it costs you a fortune to get it powder coated, because he's got to tape all this, or they can either tape it, some of them tape it, some of them do where they spray the powder and then they go back and they carefully wipe the powder off of all the parts that you want to stay chrome, and then you bake it and then you powder coat it. So now it comes out looking like this, which is beautiful. And on a black 64, this is great, right? But so you got like probably $5,000 just in that grill. And then does your dash need to be all powder coated and shiny and perfect? Maybe not necessarily, but these are the differences. So this car, nothing on this car will be old and original and like not redone. Like when people say nut and bolt restoration, you know, this is what they're talking about. So everything came off. Like this is the housing for the brake pedal and everything that goes underneath. This was taken off, powder coated, put back together. Most of the time we're using stainless steel bolts, nuts and screws wherever we can, unless it's like there's a few bolts that are like hardened steel original bolts you need to reuse, and then you clean them up and all that stuff. But I mean, these rims, you guys probably are familiar with these rims. My buddy Ali's making them. There's about $6,000 in rims, maybe $7,000 with the tires, the white walls. So like I said, so we're $30,000. It was like $31,000. I could show you guys the receipts in chrome, you know. It was a $6,000 rear end, probably about $5,000 or $6,000 in the kit for the air ride stuff. And then, you know, you're either putting it on yourself or you're paying a shop. If you're paying me or a decent shop, you're probably paying $150 an hour shop rate for them to put all this stuff in. So you can see it adds up quick. You can spend $50,000 on a motor. If you're doing a Coyote swap, or you're doing a twin turbo or a supercharged Coyote, you could easily be $50,000 in the motor. This was a little less crazy and a little less expensive. The reason we chose to go with the 460 is because they're super reliable. You can get good horsepower out of them, and you can pick up parts anywhere. Parts are cheap, easy to find. You know, if something goes wrong, you can go get parts when you need them. This box of weather stripping right here was $3,700. We were just joking about it. We were looking at the receipt. This came from, I believe, Rubber the Right Way or Steel Rubber. So $3,700 just for that box of weather stripping. And then that seal right there for the windshield, I think was like 400, 350, 400. So this stuff adds up really quick. And I mean, the top frame you see there, that was all taken out, powder coated, all the pins removed, everything put back together, greased, all that stuff. I mean, you probably got $5,000 in just getting that top ready, and that's before you even, you know, redo the wiring, all new wiring, and then you put the new canvas on and all that. I mean, these are the reasons why these builds can get so crazy. You see all these little pieces. If you guys aren't familiar, call a chrome shop and ask them. There's very few chrome shops left in the US, and I know I've heard some guys, you know, oh, there's a guy in Detroit that'll chrome a bumper, you know, for a Lincoln for $1,000. Well, not here. In Florida, there's really only one place that's reputable. There's a couple down in Miami area that I've heard bad things about, and you know, I wouldn't use. The only one that I've used around here is Space Coast Plating, and it's $4,500 for the Lincoln bumpers, just for the front and rear bumpers. They're 5 pieces, there's a lot to it, they're big, they're heavy, but they come out, like when you use a reputable shop, it may not be the cheapest, but they're gonna come out perfect. Like this bumper is flawless, and if you're doing this type of build, that's what you have to do. So you have to pay, you know? And all these little pieces, I mean, it's probably, you know, $50, $50, $50, $100, you know, like it adds up quick. And so this piece here, this plate goes under this plate with the switches, and we're going to do my custom switches. So, you know, does that have to be polished? This was the customer, you know, did this because he wanted the best of everything. So you probably could have skipped that, maybe just cleaned it up, sandblasted it, even maybe painted it. But you do see that little piece there. You will see that little chrome right there. So why not, right? If you're trying to do the best of everything, then you do that. So while not all of this is 100% necessary, like I said, this is how the price gets up there real quick. So the problem is, and the reason I'm making this video, which is getting way too long, is people will see a car like this when it's all done, and they'll say, wow, that's a nice Lincoln. I want my Lincoln to look like that. I've got 50 grand, I've got 100 grand. I want that, right? And $100,000 is a lot for a car, especially, you know, a hot rod and stuff like that. So I get that, and that's not everybody's got that. And I get it. Like I'm in the same boat where, man, you know, I don't know if I'm dropping 100 or 200 grand on a toy, basically, you know. But the problem is, people will see a car like this, they see a build like this, and then that's what they want, but they don't want to pay what it really takes to get that. You know, so then it becomes, and I've dealt with this in the past, I don't really anymore, because luckily I'm able to kind of pick and choose my customers a lot more than I used to. You know, I can be picky because my phone's constantly ringing, and to be honest, there's not a lot of really good shops out there that are doing really good work. So if you're a guy like this guy that wants the best, then you don't have a whole lot of options. So I don't have to deal with the guy anymore that says, well, I don't want to spend, you know, $100 to get these 2 turn signal buckets re-chromed. Not to mention, you know, you have to pay me to take this off. We got to get it, you know, blasted and all that stuff. If there are any problems with it or any cracks or anything, you got to fix all that stuff. So, you know, if you're not a no budget build, or if you're, you know, anything under a couple of $100 grand, you have to start making sacrifices.